Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 32 of the Drop It Weight Loss Wellness Wisdom podcast. This podcast is tailor-made for those of you with weight to lose, those of you that are losing weight now, and those of you that are bathing in the success of your weight loss accomplishment. If it's your first time on the show, welcome. I'm your host, Nick Geoppo, and 5.5 years ago, I lost 110 pounds after a lifetime of losing and gaining weight and trying every single diet you have ever heard of before finally just adopting the common sense mentality to lose weight and keep it off. And it's a diet that I call the common sense diet. If you're looking to lose weight, you're looking to have a healthier relationship with food, and you're looking to feel better in your own body, then this is the right podcast for you. Episode 32 is brought to you by our very own community called the Drop It Community. If you're ready to start the common sense diet today, take control of your life, take control of food, and get to the point where food actually makes your life better instead of making your life worse, and you want to lose weight and keep it off forever, click the link in the description of this podcast episode to join the Drop It community and start the common sense diet along an entire group of people that are on the exact same journey as you. Looking forward to seeing you on the inside. 32 episodes into recording podcasts, which is our 6-month anniversary. Those of you that have been with us since the beginning, thank you so much for following along. It's been so rewarding to be on this journey with all of you. And when I first recorded the first episode, I went back and listened to it recently. I just kind of picked up a shitty little microphone from Best Buy, the local electronics store, and just set it on my desk and told my story. And had anybody told me 6 months ago that here we would be, with so much opportunity for impact and so much opportunity to share with others and relate to others that are going through such similar things that I did, I just want to say thank you to all of you for the overwhelming amount of support. And it's really reoriented my entire reality and my entire life and my relationship with my past self. There's this part of me that just feels like I wasted so much of my life obsessing about weight loss. And I always placed my happiness on the other side of losing weight. And I thought, well, if I can just lose weight, then I'll be happy. If I can just get down to a normal weight and then keep it off, then I'll be happy. And I spent so much time thinking that I'd be happy once I lost weight. And the reality is, am I happier now? Yes, absolutely. But I'm happier now not because of how different my life is necessarily. I'm happier now because I actually believe in myself. It has less to do with the fact that I weigh less and more to do with the fact that I now have unwavering self-belief and self-confidence. And that's where most of my happiness has come from. So it's been so rewarding to share that lesson with you. The topic of today's episode is this idea of losing weight on the weekdays and then gaining weight on the weekends. This was my entire fucking life. I would lose 5 pounds on the weekdays, gain 3 pounds on the weekend, lose 6 pounds on Sunday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, gain all of it back minus 1 or 2 pounds on the weekend. So my story was I would gain a bunch of weight during the year and then lose a bunch of weight during the summer. But even during the year, right, the non-summer months, I would be gaining weight. I'd gain, 5 or 6 pounds, and then I'd lose a couple pounds. And I'd gain 5 or 6 pounds, and I'd lose a couple pounds. It's not like I was steadily gaining weight. I would gain a bunch of weight and then lose a little weight, and then gain a bunch of weight and then lose a little weight. And it would always depended on whether it was the weekday or the weekend. On the weekdays, I was really strict, really restrictive. And I would lose weight by just trying to not eat fried foods, and by trying to eat 2 meals instead of 3, or 1 meal instead of 2, or by counting all of my calories, or by doing some restrictive bullshit like trying to go keto or gluten-free or cut out carbs or intermittent fasting or any of these things that everyone that's listened to this podcast has tried, seen some level of success with for a short amount of time, and then just quit because it wasn't sustainable, because the idea of restricting yourself into weight loss is inherently unsustainable. The idea of going on a fucking diet isn't sustainable. The common sense diet isn't a diet. It's a framework rooted in lifestyle change and the ideas of simplicity and common sense. It's not actually a diet. It's facetious in its name. This idea of going on any of these diets that I just mentioned, 90-something% of people gain the weight back, and there's a reason why. It's because there's just a dreadfulness to all of these things, right? So I used to hate my fucking life on the weekdays because I would be so goddamn strict to the point where I was just obsessed with weight. I'm weighing myself every day. I'm drinking less water before I go to bed because I want to wake up and see that I lost some weight on the scale in the morning, even knowing that it might be more water weight than actual fat. I was just so into the idea of how much weight can I lose on the weekdays? Because by the time I get to the weekend, I know I'm going to fuck off, and I know that I'm going to reward myself for all the weight that I lost. And there's such a high that comes with that, right? When it comes to, well, I lost 4 pounds this week, and I know that's a lot. And really, I should only be shooting for about 2 pounds a week. So let me gain. Now I have room to gain some weight on the weekends. There was that side of it, right? Where I understood deep down somewhere inside of my mind and my body, I knew that it wasn't a healthy way of looking at it. But there was just such a high that came with the freedom to eat whatever the fuck I wanted, right? And the freedom to just fuck off and go drink a bunch of booze, drink an 18-pack of beer on a Saturday, and then wake up hungover and then go get McDonald's for brunch. Like that was my entire life from 18 to 23 years old during the school year when I was in college, right? This was up until 2018 or 2019, so 5 or 6 years ago now. But this cyclical nature of losing on the weekdays and then gaining on the weekends is something that everybody relates to, all in our own ways. But there's so many similarities here. And this carried over for me even to end of 2018 and through the first half of 2019, where it got a little more extreme once I stepped out of college and into the real world, where I was working this job that I fucking hated. So I'd wake up and I'd go to work and I'd, be pretty strict on my diet, and I might lose 2 or 3 pounds during the week, and I'd gain 4 or 5 pounds on the weekend. So I'm still net gaining at 1 to 2 pounds every week for the course of months. But it's always undereating or overeating. On the weekdays, I'm undereating. On the weekends, I'm overeating. There's no homeostasis. There's never a middle ground. There was never a day where I just ate a normal amount of fucking food. It was just undereating or overeating. That so many people that are dieting and trying to lose weight are stuck in this vicious fucking cycle of their body's just never actually feeling balance. Like, has your body ever felt balance? If your maintenance calories are 2,000, have you ever eaten 2,000 calories in a day? Probably not, right? I hadn't. I was always at fucking 1,200 or 3,000. There was never an in-between for me. And I shouldn't say never, but very rarely was there an in-between for me, especially over a consistent period of time, maybe for a day here and there unknowingly. But this idea is brutal. This cyclical nature of weekdays versus weekends or losing weight just to gain it back every week is really brutal on your system because it really fucks with your relationship with food. And it really fucks with how your body metabolizes food. And it really puts your body into this starvation mode. You're confusing the shit out of your body. You're also developing a much unhealthier relationship with food where you're just correlating food only to weight loss. And then you're putting yourself in something called the deserving mind, right? I've lost so much weight on the weekdays that now I deserve to have a good weekend because I lost 4 pounds and now I can gain 1 or 2 back or 3 back and it's not a big deal. The reality is that you don't deserve to gain weight back. What you deserve is to feel good in your own body. You don't deserve to go fuck off and eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream and a Big Mac and 3 pieces of pizza on the weekend. What you deserve is to be the healthy person that you desire to be. But we tend to think that what we deserve is ice cream. We want to reward ourselves with the bullshit that we've been restricting ourselves from. The issue isn't that you want to reward yourself. The issue is that you over-restricted yourself. So you're already in the wrong mindset. And again, I'm talking to my old self here, right, Nick? You're already in the wrong fucking mindset by the time you got to the deserving mind because you shouldn't have restricted yourself to the point where you felt like you deserved it. That's why I just ended up developing the common sense diet for myself so that I didn't have to ultra restrict myself. And that helped me work through this idea of the deserving mind by, instead of just completely cutting things out, when I had a craving, working through that craving and then deciding, does it make sense for me? Am I in a celebratory position right now where I'm out for a friend's birthday and we're at an ice cream place? Instead of restricting myself, how about I just practice having 1 scoop of ice cream and then sit with the discomfort when I want more? Pull out my phone and take a video of myself when I want more. And when I just let myself eat a normal portion of food, sit with the discomfort, and then leave the environment having won that moment, I'm not going to have this deserving mind the same way where by the time I get to the weekend, I go, I haven't eaten any food that I actually like, so now I better just fucking reward myself. It's like, practice eating bullshit food in normal portion sizes when you're around it. The best thing you can do is just spend less time around it. The second best thing is when you're around it because there's a cause for celebration, or you're out with your family, or you're out at a barbecue for the 4th of July, or it's somebody's birthday or holiday, eat mom's apple pie when she makes it. Just eat one piece, right? That's what the common sense diet, those are some of the concepts that it's based on and that we teach here in this podcast, in the community, and on Instagram, and on all these other social media platforms. This is the core of the message, right? If you're getting into this deserving mindset, remind yourself, you do not deserve bullshit food the way that you're telling yourself you do. You deserve to achieve your weight loss goals, and you deserve to do it in a way that is sustainable without restricting the fuck out of yourself and without starving yourself into unsustainable weight loss on some bullshit restrictive diet. That's what you actually deserve, right? But we love the high of eating processed foods in large quantities. There's a certain high and addictive nature to doing that. There's a certain addictive nature to weight loss in general. It's like this idea of losing weight and then gaining it back. Like, don't you just feel so good when you're losing weight? You lose weight Monday through Thursday. Doesn't Thursday feel great when you get on the scale and you see that you lost 3 pounds and I want to do it again next week. I want to do that again next week. It's like gambling. It's like gambling in a way. You could go, this is what's happening. You go sit at a slot machine in Vegas and you put in $10, and once you get down to $1 left, you spin the thing and you win $5 back. So you go from $10 down to $1, back up to $6. But when you go from $1 to $6, the thing lights up green and it says, you're a winner, and it starts flashing and all these endorphins go off in your head and you go, fuck, I won. No, you didn't. You lost. You're still down $4, right? But the high of winning that money feels good even though you've lost in the long run. That's what's happening with this cycle of losing on the weekdays and then gaining it back on the weekends. It's like you're not actually making any fucking progress a lot of the times, right? You're just playing this game for no reason. You're actually fucking up your body in the long term. So let's zoom out from what's happening. Let's stop looking at things week to week just for the sake of this podcast and start looking at things month to month or year to year. Let's look at the overarching trends of our lives versus just existing in this day-to-day, week-to-week thing. It's important to measure progress week to week or day to day if that makes sense for you, but zoom out for a second and recognize that all this stress that you're putting into winning the weekdays and then losing on the weekends is hurting you in the long run. A lot of the reasons why we get thrown off on the weekends has to do with routine, right? It's not just this idea of the deserving mind. It's not I've made progress, now I deserve to cheat. That's a big part of it for a lot of people, but it's also the routine that we have in place on the weekdays. So on the weekdays, we are at work. On the weekdays, we are at school. If you're someone that stays at home, maybe you're stay-at-home. There's a lot of stay-at-home moms in our community. There's some stay-at-home dads in our community too. There's people that are preparing for their family, preparing food, meals, lunches for the kids to go to school. There's routine tied to that, right? Taking the kids to sports. Maybe you're in school yourself. There's routine there and there's structure there on the weekdays. The structure doesn't exist the same way on the weekends for most people. And when we have structure, food is really tied to our mood, and food is really tied to structure for a lot of people, right? So it's the idea of mindfulness versus mindlessness. When you wake up at 7 in the morning to go on a 10-minute walk, and then you come home and you have to make a quick breakfast before you go to work, then you go to work and you have a 30-minute lunch break, and then you come home and then you have something to do after work, and then you have a little spot for dinner. It requires you to be a little bit mindful. You have to have somewhat of a plan around your food. And when we have more of a plan around our food, we're more likely to make healthier choices. When you're busy and you're moving a little more, it's easier a lot of the times to just make healthy choices. We still opt for convenience in those times, so not always, but there's structure. Because you have to be mindful, right? Versus mindlessness. I wake up on a Saturday, I don't really know what I'm going to do today. I'm just going to kind of hang out. Well, you're just going to hang out your way into eating a bunch of bullshit most of the time, right? Because there's no structure to your day. One of the things you can do is create some structure for your day. It doesn't mean that you have to schedule out every single minute of every single hour, but this idea of being unintentional with your time is a logic fail. It is a logic fail. And this is why I say that weight loss is the ultimate teacher. We're not even talking about food or weight loss anymore. We're talking about the person you have to become to lose weight and keep the weight off. This isn't about food or weight loss anymore. But understand that when you get to the weekend or you get home from work, this is the difference between intentional time and unintentional time. It doesn't mean you can't rest. Intentional time is coworker says, what are you going to do after work today? And you say, oh man, there's this show that I've been really wanting to watch on Netflix. I've been seeing it on TV for the last couple of weeks, and me and my wife or me and my husband or whatever, my kids are really excited to watch it. So we're watching that tonight at 7. What about you? That's intentional, right? Here's what we're doing. We're watching Netflix. Here's what I'm going to watch. Versus What are you doing after work today? I don't know. Netflix. Oh, cool. What are you going to watch? I don't know. Just like whatever's on. What the fuck do you mean you don't know what you're going to watch? How do you have so much time that you've been wasting that you don't even know what you're going to watch on TV? You're just going to turn it on and figure it out. That's an issue, right? Because you're not bringing intentionality to your life. Imagine just if you don't know what you're going to do on Saturday, it doesn't mean that you can't change your plans, you can't go with the flow or feel into it or relax, but schedule your relaxation. I live a scheduled life, but I schedule my rest, right? So I'm going to go to a yoga class tonight to relax, or I'm going to spend some time on my phone tonight aimlessly scrolling. Even though that's unintentional, I'm intentionally doing it. Like it's written into my schedule. I know that I'm going to do that tonight at 9:30, and then I'm going to start getting ready for bed afterwards. Versus I get to 7 o'clock and I don't know what I'm going to do, so let me just scroll on my phone. There's a difference between intentionality and unintentionality. And when you're not intentional, that's when we tend to be so far off of our routine that now I'm just going to go eat some chips. Now I'm just going to go eat, a couple pieces of pizza or whatever. And that mindlessness versus mindfulness, it carries over into everything that you're doing, including food. The best thing you can do if you're someone that loses weight on the weekdays and gains weight back on the weekends or whatever cycle you might be on, all these cycles are the same, right? Is create some structure for yourself. If you're someone that meal preps on the weekdays, have some meal prep food on the weekends. If you're someone that plans everything that you're going to eat on the weekdays, have some plans for what you're going to eat on the weekends. If you're someone that wakes up and goes on a 15-minute walk Monday through Friday, but on the weekends you sleep until 10 or 11, stop doing that. Wake up at the same time on the weekends. I can't because I'm out drinking with my friends until 2 in the morning. What would you rather do? Like this is like, and again, I'm talking to my old self here, right? Nick, what the fuck would you rather do? Would you rather have some more structure, feel better in your own body, and therefore present as a more happier, better feeling person to then be around other happier, better feeling people that enjoy life too? Or just keep going out and drinking with the same people and then sleeping in and then, now my sleep schedule's turned off. Now I'm just going to eat. Like, you get to decide, man. And that's what it really comes down to, right? It's just write these things down on a piece of paper. The issue is on the weekends, I gain weight because I go out with my friends and I don't know how to lose weight when I'm out with my friends. Okay. What are you doing when you're out with your friends? We're drinking alcohol. Okay. Does it make sense for you to be out drinking alcohol every single weekend? Forget the weight, just like common sense. Probably not, right? So again, it's less about weight loss or just overall general health. Probably not. That doesn't mean you can't go out and common sense have 1 or 2 drinks. 1 or 2 drinks won't throw you off for a weekend unless you let it, right? I still go out and have a couple drinks every once in a while. Maybe once a week I'll have anywhere from 1 to 3 drinks a week. I'll go out on a Friday at 9 o'clock, have 2 margaritas or 2 light drinks, depending on the mood that I'm in. And then I'll be home at midnight and they'll go to bed and I'm still waking up at 7. Maybe I'll sleep in for 30 minutes, 7:30. Versus I went out and I had 5 drinks and I'm super hungover and then I slept till 10. I woke up and I missed my walk. Now I'm dehydrated and I just, honestly, let's just go to McDonald's. Like, now you're just in this cycle of, well, it's Saturday, so we might as well just eat whatever. I'm tired. And then we'll restart on Monday. This concept of restarting your diet doesn't make any sense because you shouldn't be on a diet in the first place. Just prioritize your health. You don't have to start over you don't have to start your diet over if you just never start a diet. Instead of starting a diet, start the common sense diet, which isn't really a diet. It's just a means to prioritizing your health. So never say that you're on a diet. Never identify with being on a diet because then you get pulled off track. When you're off track because you quote unquote fucked up, it's really fucking hard to get back on track. So let's just never start a diet in the first place. Let's just prioritize our health. When our friends ask us what diet we're on, let's smirk at them and say the common sense diet. And then let's explain that I'm not really on a diet. I'm just making healthier choices. I'm just prioritizing my health by moving my body a little more and eating more nourishing and healthier foods in normal quantities. And I'm going to see what happens because I'm losing weight and I feel good. And yeah, it's tough because I like going out and having 5 drinks. I like going out and getting 3 chicken sandwiches from Chick-fil-A on the weekend and waking up and eating sugary cereal or whatever the fuck your thing is, right? It's like you deserve to have a little more routine on the weekends. And if you don't, then you deserve to intentionally eat healthier foods, maintain some routine with what you're eating on the weekends, regardless of what else you're doing. You got to put some intentionality into it. A lot of it comes down to we tend to eat out more on the weekends than we might on the weekdays. These principles, everything that we talk about in this podcast still applies to eating at restaurants. You don't have to be counting calories, right? At this point, you should have some go-to meals where you know about how many calories they are, and you know that they're high in protein. You know that you can make them quickly in less than 10 or 15 minutes. You know they're made of mostly whole and natural foods. You should have 5 or 10 go-to meals at this point if you've been listening to this podcast for the last 32 episodes. So when you go out on the weekends, now you're in environments where you're no longer existing around your go-to meals. Just apply the principles of the common sense diet. Prioritize whole and natural foods where you can. Most of the time, you're naturally going to eat less calories than you might if you were just eating processed foods. You don't have to be counting all the calories when you go out, right? The idea of overeating 400 or 500 calories on a Saturday is not going to negate your entire calorie deficit for the other 6 days of the week unless you let it, right? So this is where we mess up. This is part of the issue. You overeat on dinner on Friday night, and then you just go, now in that steak, I overate 400 calories, and I gained 1.5 pounds. How is that possible? Because I only overate 400 calories? Because of the water weight, right? Like, it's not possible. You didn't gain 1.5 pounds of fat in a day. You're just retaining more water. But we get so fucked up mentally from that idea because we're just measuring results based on what we're seeing on the scale that we end up just quitting for the weekend or justifying doing whatever we want on the weekend because we deserve to take a break. You don't have to take a break if you're doing something that's sustainable. If your diet is miserable, you're never going to make it. If you find yourself in the mindset of, I want to take a break from my diet, then your diet isn't sustainable and you won't keep the weight off because the way you lose weight dictates how sustainable your results are. The way you lose weight dictates how sustainable your results are. If you hate your diet, when you hit your weight loss goal, you're going to quit your diet and you're not going to know how to exist at that weight or at that calorie count without being on your diet. So you're likely to just revert back to old habits, right? Who the fuck you really are is what you do the day after you hit your weight loss goal. This community, this podcast, Drop It in general, this message isn't just about how to lose weight. It's about how to keep the weight off. If you just lose weight and then gain the weight back, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything besides you just put all this effort into something that you didn't maintain the results for. So let's go a little slower. Instead of losing 6 pounds on the weekdays and getting 4 back on the weekends, what if we just try to focus on losing 1 to 1.5 to maybe 2 pounds per week? By the time we get to Christmas in 6 months, you're going to be 25 to 40 pounds lighter and be a totally different person. Everyone's going to be asking what diet pills you've been taking and what your secret is, and you're going to smirk at them and be like, it's just this idea of common sense, and everyone's going to be like, oh, I never thought of that before. You can literally be that person. You can literally be that person. Should you just intentionally break this cycle by A, getting off of your diet, your quote-unquote diet, and just prioritizing your health, right? That way it's less dreadful. B, not restricting yourself from every single thing that you like. C, or 3, practice eating processed foods in normal quantities so that you don't crave them so much on the weekends that you end up just overeating them and saying, fuck it. And 4, or D, is to create some structure for yourself on the weekend. If you're losing weight on the weekdays and you're not losing an ungodly amount of weight, what if you were to carry that routine over, except that you might lose a little bit less weight on the weekdays instead of 6 pounds Monday through Friday and then gaining 4 back on Saturday and Sunday? What if we just set a goal to lose 2 pounds in the 7-day span? Like, let's change our mentality around it, right? You're going to net lose the same and not be in the stress of under-eating so drastically. The issue is that we're under-eating so drastically on the weekdays that our bodies are fucking starving by the time we get to the weekends. And now we don't have the discipline to make healthy decisions because our bodies are so starving. So let's create some routine for ourselves, give ourselves permission to lose weight a little bit slower. You absolutely have what it takes, guys. There was so long when I just didn't think that I had what it took, and very rarely did I. I had very rare moments where I was very, very motivated, and I could see the vision very clearly. And all I did was just pull out my phone, said, "Man, I absolutely have what it takes to lose weight. I know for a fact I'm going to lose this weight." And then an hour later, I would forget about it, and then I'd be back to the negative self-talk of, "Oh my God, no, I don't. I'm always going to be fat." But then I just go back and watch the video. So take a video of yourself when you're feeling motivated. Remind yourself that you can do it. Come back to this podcast episode. When you get to the weekend, come back to this podcast episode and remind yourself, bring some of that structure, create structure for yourself. Keep your workout routine on the weekends. Keep your walk on the weekends. Continue, if you're so bored of your meal prep or whatever you're eating on the weekdays, find ways to mix it up on the weekends that will help you stay in a calorie deficit. You don't have to starve yourself. You don't have to lose 5 pounds Monday through Friday just so you can gain 3 or 4 back on the weekends. Let's create some more balance, and let's make this not so dreadful. Weight loss doesn't have to suck. If weight loss sucks, it's really going to be hard to keep the weight off because you're always going to dread it. You absolutely have what it takes. If you made it to the end of the podcast episode, thanks for being here, and thanks for supporting us and for supporting me and being 6 months into pod. What am I saying? 32 episodes is not 6 months. 6 months was episode 26. So we are 7.5 months in. So I'm just giving you wrong information. But if you made it 7.5 months into this podcast, then thanks for being here. Please leave us an honest review. It is the best thing you can do to support me as a creator, and me as somebody that is really trying to build a movement here that's rooted in common sense. We're trying to build an idea that weight loss doesn't have to suck so much. So if you're someone that resonates with this idea, if you believe in what I'm doing here, please leave us a rating, an honest review, anywhere from 1 to 5 stars on Apple or on Spotify or whatever platform you're listening on. That's the best thing you can do to support me, this movement, and it would just make me feel really great. Looking forward to seeing you all next week.